Okay, I can't believe I waited this long to finish my taxes. Here it is, October 14th, and I'm just doing my tax return now. My extension is up, and I got to get it done. Good thing that I went ahead and did most of this back in May, because at this point, all I have to do is just make a couple little touch-ups to it, double check I have everything in it, including, one of the bank receipts that I just got, and I'm ready to go. Okay, I got TurboTax up right now. Let me see, what did I call this file again? Just open one up. Oh, there it is. 2018 PE for doers. Let me try that. Open it. What are you talking about? Let me go to my backup. Oh my gosh. I don't have a backup of this file. I have to start this thing all over again, and I don't think I kept all of the paperwork. What an idiot. All joking aside, obviously this video is about backup. It's one of the most important things you can do to make sure that your systems and your files have longevity. I'm going to go through it, and if you find anything here that is helpful or that you find entertaining in any way, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. The 5 computer security tenets. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these one by one, but I did want you to have a reference to what they are. Now, why am I talking about these 5 tenets when this is supposed to be a backup video? Well, integrity has some specifics to it that apply. Did you know that there's a prime subcomponent of integrity? That prime subcomponent is availability. Backup theory and concepts. What is a file's ready for archiving flag? Well, every computer system for probably the last 30 years had this bit for every file. Didn't matter what the operating system was, whether it was Windows or going back further to DOS, or even more sophisticated server-based software such as Linux. There is a flag that's called ready for archiving. If you want to check to see what that flag is set to, you would first look at a directory that has the file in it, and I'm giving a Windows example here, and you would then right-click on the file name and select Properties. You would be able to see this screen, the file properties for that file. If you then further go and click the Advanced button, then that would open up a more detailed view of the attributes for that file. And the first one there on the file attributes is file is ready for archiving. And what that means, this file has been changed since the last time a piece of backup software actually backed up the file. Now, if it's a brand new system and you've never done backups before, then all the files will have that flag, with the exception of some files that there's no reason to back them up, like swap files and other types of special system files. But the backup software uses this to flag that it has backed something up. Therefore, when it comes to back it up again, it will know which ones to choose, especially if it was trying to do an incremental backup. There are 4 types of backups that you can use. The first is a full backup, which means every file in the selected directory or disk will actually be backed up. And then there are incremental backups, and these are the ones that use that archive flag. Only those files with the ready for archiving flag will be backed up. And then there's differential backups, which is really a combination of the first 2. However, 2 separate backup images, and that's the way the backup software tends to work. It makes images that contain all the files being backed up. It contains a separate image for the full and a separate image for the incremental since that full was created. So in order to do a full restore, you're going to have both of those files available to you. Then there's a special case called a mirror backup, and this is an active backup, in which a full mirror copy of the disk or the directories is continually maintained. There is some delay, of course, depending on how busy the system is, since it is done simply by a program running in the background. However, it does get done eventually. This is equivalent to a RAID 1. However, RAID runs either in the hardware itself or is embedded in a low-level piece of the software that is running at a high priority, and therefore it gets done probably in the time less than you could imagine. So if you were to delete a file, it would wind up being deleted from the mirror as well. Same problem that RAID would have. Now, general PC backups. Using a USB memory stick or externally attached hard drive, you can do a quick and easy backup. However, do you know where those devices happen to be at any given time? Can an unauthorized person access any of them? And do you keep them disconnected unless you are backing something up? Windows 10 includes a full backup function. However, their full backup is somewhat limited. The biggest limitation is it can only be not only a full image backup, but it only can be restored onto the exact same system that was backed up. And it does check the ID of the motherboard before it will let you back that up. Then there are third-party software, and in addition to that, most of them that provide some storage space for you. There are many packages out there which will do this for you, but which one do you choose? And the most important thing here is these are not free. How much will they cost you? The software itself, and if you choose to pick their option of online storage. And keep in mind, they probably will offer you some online storage for some period of time for free, but it won't stay for free. And then in sort of a similar fashion, a purely online backup methodology called the cloud, which many of you may be more familiar with your smartphones, because they get backed up to the cloud unless you actually turn it off. But at some point, even they start charging you for it once you reach a certain level of storage space. So just keep in mind that there is a cost involved, but more importantly, there is a high risk of data security when you're using the cloud. Even though they may advertise that they have encryption, just keep in mind who is controlling those encryption keys. Well, if you think you are, you might want to double check the fine print on that. Then there's network storage, or a personal cloud, another way it's being coined lately. This is adding your own network accessible storage, or NAS, and having a network that supports it. Now, there are some technical challenges, especially for those who have never worked with server storage for another purpose, i.e. work. There is a rather significant upfront cost, including getting the help to set it up the first time you try to do that. It's not trivial, and you usually wind up having to get somebody to help you, whether it's the vendor of the network storage, software, or hardware, or you have to go out and hire somebody that you know can set it up for you. However, it is very flexible. Once you get everything set up and you get accustomed to using it, you'll find that it's very handy in a lot of ways. Just keep in mind that there's a continual cost in keeping everything up to date, usually expanding the amount of storage as your data size increases, which means today you may only need 2 terabytes of storage, but 2 years from now, you may need 4 terabytes. 5 years from now, you may be 10 terabytes, and it just keeps on going up. Now, generally, the cost is usually too high to get excessive storage ahead of time, because mainly the price of the storage is continually dropping. So why invest money in something that'll be half its price in 18 months? What used to cost for a terabyte, now you're paying for a petabyte. Now, a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes, and it's continually dropping. Critical point, though, make sure you only allow an administrator's account the ability to write, modify, or delete files from a network share. If you allow every individual to get to every file in your network, then there's really no point. It's wide open, and anybody who gets a virus or just makes a mistake can destroy every file you have. Here's an example of how I deal with this and how I back up my data. In the center is a 4 terabyte NAS drive. It has 2 drives in it. So it actually has 4 terabytes of storage per se. However, I have it in what's called RAID 1. And RAID 1 mirrors those 2 4 terabyte hard drives to each other. So even though there's 2 drives in there, 4 terabytes each, I only see 4 terabytes because one is an exact copy of the other. And if any one of them were to go bad, then I could replace the bad one, and the one that is not bad would pick up the load until it resyncs between the 2 drives. A very powerful feature. However, it is not itself backup. It only protects you against the inevitable case of a hard drive failure. Now, even though solid-state drives are now available in NAS devices, you can't say they won't fail. They just will fail in a different way, and actually they may fail in a more catastrophic way. I also have, off to the lower left there, a 3 terabyte NAS drive. I use that as only backup to the majority of the files that exist on the 4 terabyte drive. Now, there is some of that 4 terabyte that I do not back up, and I make sure that I put those in the appropriate shares on that drive. And then off to the right, I also use that one for backup, but I use it only for certain files off of, again, the 4 terabyte NAS drive. So here's an example. I have on the 4 terabyte NAS the drive broken up into different drives. They call them folders, but they really can be individually mapped in any computer system on my network. So every user has their own user directory that they could map to their system. But in addition to that, I have a group of shared drives that are system and general purpose shares. And those anybody can map. However, most people cannot write or modify those files. The backup philosophy is that at 2 a.m. every day, all of those user drives get backed up to the 3 terabyte NAS drive. Then on a weekly basis, at approximately 4 a.m., then the shared drives get backed up. But I don't do every one every day. Even though it's weekly, it's divided up amongst the 7 days of the week. So I may have a dozen different drives there, and one day we may have 2 of the smaller ones backing up, the next day 1 of the larger ones, and so forth throughout the week. Then in addition to that, I have on a daily basis 12 hours offset. At 2 p.m., I have the user files again being backed up to the 1 terabyte NAS device. Now, how do I actually handle my backup data? Well, in addition to this RAID and duplication of backups amongst the different NAS devices, I also back everything up every 6 months. I do a full backup and then I do incremental backups. I use a tool called Acronis. However, you could use any tool you want. That's just one that, has done well for me. The Acronis, like many others, provides a lot of different features to it. It can obviously perform the full backups. It can also perform the incremental backups. It can restore a backup image made on any computer to any other computer, unlike the Windows backup function. And it can easily upgrade any system hard drive to another brand, type, or size. So on one of my computers, if I wanted to go from a 1 terabyte hard drive, this is drive C for example, to a 2 terabyte using Acronis and a standalone feature they provide, I'm able to do that very quickly and easily and without any real problems. Also, I can schedule periodic backups, either full or incremental. I don't do that right now, but I could. I also create, and this is an important one, the last bullet there, I create standalone USB stick media that can rebuild a computer system from scratch. I can also use that to what's called clone a hard drive. So if I wanted to make 2 computers with the exact same drive C, I could do that very easily by using this Acronis tool. Now, I mentioned image backups, and this is the only thing that Windows itself does. However, just to be more specific, these are full, complete images of your PC hard drive. They not only include every known file that you see on the system, but they include a bunch of files you would never have any reason to directly access. As a matter of fact, even a system administrator has problems getting to certain of those files while the system is running. And again, the image backups are primarily meant to deal with a full hard drive failure. And also, the final point is they are very consuming of time. If you want to create it or restore it, it's going to take a lot of time. And you have to use a standalone version of the backup software in just about every case to get it done. Windows has a way around that. It actually loads in a standalone version of itself when you're trying to restore to the same system. But other than that, the others have to create a separate thumb drive or externally connected drives to get this function done. Now, backup, security, and dependability. Whether you use the free features included in your operating system or something else, you need to ensure that the backup files are properly secured. You have to prevent unauthorized individuals from viewing or modifying your backup data. Imagine modifications to your backup by an unauthorized person, at a minimum, could corrupt your backups and make them unreadable later, but realistically, they can cause a problem in terms of security. Someone could actually change your data, and you may not know about it. There is new sophisticated malware, for example, those are viruses, that have been identified that go after these backup files, which is why, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that you store these backup files on a removable media or a network-attached drive that only certain users can get to, like the administrator. Do not have these files on the exact same computer that was being backed up. That is a very important point. Backup evolution. Well, you should be fully expecting that storage space growth will continue exponentially, which means it will more than double every 3 to 5 years. A wise PC user will make sure that every storage technology they use, along with their backup storage, can be effectively upgraded as needed. My storage needs have grown from a mere 25 gigabytes to where I am today at over 6 terabytes in just 15 years. And I expect it to grow by 150% every 3 years from this point on. You also have to realize that technology is changing rapidly. There are major changes taking place at least every 3 years, and that's based upon today's growth in productions. 15 years ago, 500 gigabytes of NAS storage cost me $700. Today, I can get 6 terabytes for that. Conclusions. Prepare for storage growth well ahead of it becoming a critical factor. Once you have reached 50% of any of your storage, look into upgrading that capacity on that device. You should consider a redundant backup strategy as soon as you can afford one. It is most likely that you will need to recover that file you accidentally corrupted last night while working on your taxes when you were half asleep, than to have to recover your entire hard drive. But make sure you can cover both bases. Protect your backup media. Network attached storage with full authentication and authorization, which means only modified by an administrator account, is the best. Any detachable storage that you can actually physically detach from the system is a good second choice, as long as you actually disconnect it. The most important thing to have is any backup strategy rather than none. Okay, that concludes the video on backups. A little bit longer than usual, but it was an important topic. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, or you just found it enjoyable in any way, please do us a favor and subscribe to this channel. All you have to do is click on this little head here. Thanks for watching.